not by anything that we have done. In fact, this morning, I'm going to invite Chris to come on up, and we are going to share together in a testimony. And when we share this, it's not boasting in anything that we have done, but only in what God has done. And so, Chris, I understand you're here this morning because you're a Christian poster child person. Is that right?
No, if that were true, I would fire the poster maker. I mean, think about it. I'm not a fighter pilot. I don't have flamboyant shirts. Pretty much, I am a senior, and that's pretty much all I have to my name is that I'm about to graduate. But I am going to need this podium in case I get nervous and fall down or pass out. So this will help prevent that. But yeah, if you guys took principles of speech with me, I have a confession to make. You guys all thought I was very cool and confident, and I spoke well. You didn't see my knees shaking behind the podium, which is why I regret this one does not have a backing to it. But as Justin said, I am Chris Frank. I'm from Arizona, and I'm a major in psychology, which whenever I say that, I notice most people start regretting whatever they told me. Like, blah, 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 blah. So what's your major? I'm a psychology major. Oh. Well, but I also feel very bamboozled, Justin. You did not tell me we had preview students. And so that adds the stress a lot more. But the last time I was bamboozled like that, I was stuck moving furniture. So yeah. I try not to make a habit of that, but you just gotta roll with the punches. But as he said, I am a Christian convert. I gave my life to God April 17th this year, so 2 Wednesdays from now, 6 months. And to be honest, it has not been easy since that day, but considering where I was before that day, it is very worth it. So, yeah, pretty much my testimony is I was born and raised in the church, but the churches I went to were a lot of whitewashed Christians instead of white Christians that were washed white by God. So, and if you don't know this distinction, think the Pharisees. Those are the whitewashed Christians. Jesus even said they are like whitewashed graves. They look pretty, but they're still full of death. And that was what I was growing up around, and that's what I thought real Christianity was. So then I went to college. I went to University of Arizona, go Wildcats, and went to the Sun Devils. I will pray for you. But and the church I went to was more whitewashed Christians. And it finally got to the point in my life, there was a lot of stuff going on in my life and in society where I just told God, if this is you, if this is what you are really wanting of me, then I don't want any part of it, because pretty much the image I was getting is that Christians were supposed to be judgmental, we're supposed to hide in their ivory tower and look down on society without any compassion, without any mercy. And I'm like, God, if that's you, I don't want it. Like that, I want to actually help people rather than just pass judgment on them. And so after University of Arizona, I went to a small community college around Phoenix, and then my mom told me or suggested to me that I should come to Central Christian because my sister was coming here as well. And she pulled the, well, your sister would really like it if you came. And if you guys know Brandy, we are like polar opposites. We don't really hang out. We don't have much in common. And that's just the way it is. But so I came here, and my first year really wasn't that great. But then my second year, God started working to my good and bringing people into my life to help bring me back. And so that last year, April 17th, I didn't give my heart to God. And so this is my third year. But it's been very interesting because as I grow deeper, I realize how much God guides my life. And even before this, even before I ran away and before I started coming back. And some examples of that is senior year of high school, I was looking to join the Marine Corps after high school, go into reserves and then go through them to go to college. About March of my senior year, I just started getting this dread, like that was not what I was supposed to do, and that it would really change where I go in life and what I do. And it finally got to the point where I'm like, okay, I don't understand why, I don't get what's going on, but I backed out of the Marine Corps and just went to college. And then my first year here at Central, I'm like, you know what, I don't want to be here, this isn't what I want to do. And so I saw this college in Montana, and on the board, it made a lot more sense to go there. It was like $10,000 cheaper, it had a much stronger psychology course, and then it also had a master's program, so I could continue on there. And when I went to preview it, I loved it, it was awesome, but one of the nights I was there, I just stayed up and the impending dread came again, like, this is not where I'm supposed to go, this is not what I'm supposed to do. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't make sense, but I'm just gonna back out and I'll stay at Central. And then last year, September 1st, my dad was arrested for extreme DUI, which in Arizona, that has a lot of stiff penalties. You have to have the breathalyzer in your car, at least 100 days in jail, and several other issues pertaining to that. But, and when my mom called me with that information, after that I just got into a real deep depression. I was angry. And a lot of it, people didn't see because I didn't let them see it, but it would come out in like, sort of passive aggressive, like people would start complaining about their life and I'm like, you know what, you don't know what real trouble is. And for a lot of people it was true, it was trivial stuff like, well, she said this about me. You don't know what real trouble is. But, and then it finally got to the point, I just started, like, the dam that I was building up to try and keep the emotions in just broke, and I finally talked to my mom about it. And she's like, well, we can go get you to talk to a therapist. And so I was able to go talk to Lori Kaufman. If any of you have taken her class, that's who I talked to. And she helped me a lot, but at that point I was pronounced atheist, so I was like, I'm a little on edge because she's a Christian psychologist, so she's probably going to look at me differently, she's probably going to judge me and that sort of stuff. But it was really cool. I was able to resolve a lot of the issues I had. And then on top of that, God brought people into my life that challenged me and started bringing me back. When I first pronounced myself as an atheist, I was like, God, if you're real, this is like the last straw. If you're real, put a brick wall in my way that I cannot defeat and that I cannot get around. And he gave me a brick wall in the size of a 4'11" Mexican girl. For those of you I'm talking about this can't see. And we started working in the cafeteria together, and it was fun and it was awesome getting to know her, but I always felt like she's gonna judge me. If she ever knew I was an atheist, if she ever knew what my past was like, she would judge me and not be friends with me anymore. And one day she just asked me point blank in the cafeteria, are you an atheist? And because at this point my Facebook said I was an atheist. And so I'm like, well, I knew this was coming, but yes, and it was nice meeting you. But, and then she did something I couldn't understand. She's like, well, why are you an atheist? And I'm like, I don't really want to talk about it right now, but eventually I did tell her. And she didn't alienate me. She didn't pass judgment. And she had real empathy and care and concern for what I did and what I believed. And so it was really strange because if any of you know Liz, she's very tough. She's the immovable object. And so I'm like, who is this girl, and why can't I like beat her logic? Why can't I break her? And so it got me really interested, and I'm like, God, I don't really trust you. I don't really know you, but I'm starting to get interested. And then it finally went on to about spring break. I'm like, you know what? I'm seeing a lot of stuff in her life and in several of my other friends' lives. I want to learn this. Like, I want to know who God is. So I'm like, God, I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're real. I don't know if you love me. But I'm willing to try and figure it out. So I started reading my Bible, the Bible I've had for like 7 years. And it was like worn and ratty, but it worked. And so I started reading that every night and praying every night. And in the course of 3 weeks after that, he gave me different revelations about my life. And the first biggest thing was that he's always been beside me. I was really frustrated one night. I'm like, God, why aren't you guiding my steps? Why can't I feel you moving where I go? And why aren't you telling me what you want me to do? And like in a matter of 10 minutes, he's like, remember when you were going to go into the Marines? Remember when you were going to go to Montana? And you backed out because you started feeling dread. That was me. I wanted you here for this year so that you could know a deeper sense of me and that you could understand a portion of what I truly am. And it just was really humbling to know that he wanted me to come back, and so he set things in motion where that I would come in like without being pressured, without feeling forced like I had to accept God. Like, okay, well, I guess I'll choose that. No, like I wanted to choose him. And so the 3 weeks continued, more revelations, and the big thing was he taught me how deep my sins were. Like before this, I was carrying regret that I had for like 3 or 4 years on something that's a little too personal that I don't really want to get into. But everything I did, everything I said, the way I behaved was to try and make up for what I did, but nothing worked. And that is the gravity of our sins, is that nothing we can do can erase it. And so one night I was just really desperate. It was weighing really heavy on me. And I'm like, God, I believe you forgave me of my sins. But it's not in my heart. I understand it, but I don't believe it. Help me to believe it. And instantaneously, it was like a ton of bricks was lifted off of me. And there's really no other way to explain that. That is the only way I know that God forgave me, is that the weight was lifted, that I didn't have to carry it anymore. And so for like 3 days after that, I was just like happy. I'm like, I'm forgiven. But and then it finally came to a point, April 17th. Like I was just frustrated. I was ranting. I was raving, and I was just like, God, how come nothing is making sense? How come everything is falling apart? Why is my world on fire? What am I supposed to be doing here? And it was like the revelations of those 3 weeks all came in a moment of like 10 minutes. Like, remember when I told you that I guided your footsteps. Remember when I told you that I had forgiven you, and you know what it feels like to be forgiven. Remember this, remember that. Remember when I told you that your charge is to be a man of God wherever you are, and in whatever you do. Remember all those. And in a matter of like 5 minutes, I went from frustrated and pissed off to happy and ecstatic, and I was just like laughing for no reason. I was just like, I'm so glad no one went to go do laundry in Larson's basement, because I was just like, and so at that point I'm just like, why am I even trying to deny it anymore? Like, I know there's a God, and I know He forgave me, and that's why I give my heart to God. But granted, like, that is a very good side of Christianity. That is like something we do need to confess and acknowledge. But at the same time, it's not that God is giving us all this power. He's not forgiving us simply so that we can go live our lives unaffected. He does call us to go do hard things sometimes, insane things. And my best example of this is last year I was crushing on a girl, as you do. And like, we talked about it, but it never went anywhere, but we continued being friends. And so it was really good, and that friendship is how God showed me portions of His love for me. It's like how I showed it to her is how He felt to me in a tiny fraction. But so graduation day, the last day I was going to be here, I was supposed to go back to Phoenix the next day, and he woke me up and said, "Go tell her to marry this guy." And I was like, that is not what I want to do. That is totally against what my dreams and my ambitions are. But, so I'm like, God, if this is you, then tell me so as I'm reading the Bible. And so I flipped open to Leviticus 26, and it's Moses speaking to the Israelites about being obedient to God. And the first part is the blessings for obedience. If you walk in my statutes and observe my commandments and do them, then I will give you your rains in their season, and the land shall yield its increase, and the trees of the field shall yield their fruit. Your threshing shall last to the time of the grape harvest, and the grape harvest shall last to the time for sowing. And you shall eat your bread to the full and dwell in your land securely. I will give peace in the land, and you shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid. But then he goes on to say what is punishment for disobedience. But if you will not listen to me, and will not do all these commandments, if you spurn my statutes, and if your soul abhors my rules, so that you will not do all my commandments, but break my covenant, then I will do this to you. I will visit you with panic, with wasting disease and fever that consume the eyes and makes the heart ache. And so that was pretty much God saying, I'm telling you to do this. Go do it. And I was still a little bit hesitant, like, I don't really want to. And he just put a thought in my mind, like, do you love this girl? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, everyone knows I do. And he's like, if you love her, you will do this, because this will bring her the blessings that I intend for her. If you withhold it, then you're withholding my blessings for her. And so it was really hard, and it was very painful, but I finally sent her a text message. This was like 7 o'clock in the morning. Hey, God's telling me to tell you to go marry this guy. And sent that, like, how else do you say that? Like, put a little smiley face in We're like, LOL. But, yeah, that day was really hard, but it was also very good, because later that day, I was able to talk to her, and she's like, my roommate and I were discussing this last night. She was talking to this guy on Skype. God told me a very specific guy. We were talking to him on Skype, and once he got off, I asked my roommate, like, do you think I should rekindle this relationship or not? And according to her roommate said, we need to pray about it, and God will give us an answer. So 6 hours later, she gets a text message from me saying, go marry this guy. And so I'm like, yay, like, I helped answer your question, but, I mean, it still hurt. But, and then just other things that God has us do, like, even the basic keep my commandments, like the 10 basic commandments, those are naturally against our nature as humans. So we are very literally dying to the flesh so that we can serve in the spirit. And Jesus says that anyone who would follow me, pick up your cross and follow me. The cross is a very painful and brutal thing. Like, it's not fluffy bunny, let's go get tickled and go get manicures. No, it's let's get nailed to the cross and die in the most brutal and horrible way. And I'm not saying that to like scare you and like say, oh, we have to go slaughter ourselves. No, that is not the case. But God does ask us to do very hard things. And that's pretty much what my testimony is a monument to. So.
We're going to close together in a song. And as we hear Chris today share his testimony with us, something he said when he first started is he said, you know, since I made this decision April 17th, I'm not saying it's been easy. But he did say it's worth it. And at the end, he was talking about God calls us to do big things. But it's worth it. It's worth it. So today as we close, I would like us to keep that in mind as we worship a God who says, you know what, take up your cross and follow me, but I will give you a peace that surpasses all understanding. I will not give you more than you can bear. And I love you more than you could ever know. Please stand with us and close in worship together.